room. So with that, we'll turn it over to Sarah, who will give us the lowdown on canoe procurement.
Awesome. With this small but mighty group, I'm gonna throw it over to Stephanie Morris, or Mo as we like to call her, to kind of kick us off. So you guys can listen to her for a few slides, and then I'll jump right into the vast majority of the presentation today.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Hello, everyone. It was nice to see everyone's faces and meet everyone now face to face. And I'd be just walking you through these first couple of slides here, just talking about canoe procurement for PEI municipalities. Want to just introduce our Canoe Atlantic Canada team once again. So myself, I am the member outreach representative for Atlantic Canada. So when you have questions about your membership or you need support or you have purchases coming up and you need some assistance, you can always reach out to me. And then we also have Sarah Hubble here on the call as well, who is the territory manager for Atlantic Canada as well. So she is supporting our members too. If you have questions or you need to, we have our contact information on this slide here as well, and you will be getting these slides after this webinar as well. So if you need to reach out to us, you can use our email or phone numbers listed there as well. All right, let's talk about some Canoe basics here. Canoe is a Canadian not-for-profit group buying as well. Our membership is over 5,000 members now currently, most of them falling in those MASH sectors, so municipal, academic, school, and healthcare sectors, but any non-for-profit or public entity is able to use the program, leverage our contracts, and reach out to our Canoe approved suppliers. We do partner with our municipal associations, like our one hosting us today as well, FPEIM, which is awesome. And we do also partner with Sourcewell. Sourcewell is a government group purchasing organization. They are like Canoe, but they are based out of the US. We do co-post a lot of their RFPs as well to get more programs for our members, more access to suppliers. We do also leverage their membership base to get even better preferred pricing for us as well, which is awesome. I do like to say that Canoe is a bridge, so we're not an ordering platform or software. You are still engaging with these suppliers and having those conversations to make those purchases. We're not a substitute for procurement teams. We're just a tool in your toolbox to really streamline this procurement process and support you as you go along in your procurement journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Steph. As Cassandra kind of highlighted at the beginning, I do want to kind of differentiate the three divisions of Canoe. So we do have Canoe Benefits. They have their own team that's in place that you may have engaged with at some point. That it is a part of our offering as a company or as a nonprofit overall. But we do kind of operate in our own pillars. We also have Canoe Insurance, which Cassandra highlighted, which is coming into PEI shortly. And then, of course, Canoe Procurement. We actually partnered with the association back in 2019 to offer these contracts to members. So that's just a little background of the three different divisions that we have here at Canoe. Now, the next few slides, and Stephanie already highlighted this package along with the recording is going to be shared with the group today. So obviously, please take some notes, but you will get this package as well, and you can feel free to reach out to Stephanie or I if you have additional questions. Second to that, I will be out in PEI from May 13th to 15th. So if you would like a more individual, one-on-one type of presentation with your team, please feel free to reach out to me after and we can look to arrange a date and time that might align best with your group. So we're going to start first with navigating the Canoe website and contracts. So there's going to be a few different categories and sections that we go through. One thing that we typically find with members is if you haven't really engaged with the Canoe website, it definitely catches you by surprise with how easy it typically is to access it. So first and foremost, it's one of the only open websites that are left for a lot of GPO organizations. So that means there's no username or no password required to gain access to the website, to review all of the standing offer contracts we have, the suppliers, any of the documentation, it's all publicly there. So what I always like to say is, whether you have a procurement team or it's your own team within the municipality or the township or its council, encourage them to look at the Canoe website and look at the documents and get some questions hopefully answered in that respect. And then if not, obviously Stephanie and I can step in. On our website, we do pride ourselves in being transparent. So like I highlighted, the RFP, the original RFP, the master agreement with each supplier, and the evaluation summary for each category or each RFP is posted publicly. So we always encourage our members to review it, download it. There's a lot of really good information in the master agreements that are typically going to answer a lot of the questions that you have. And we'll actually break down each of these documents further in this presentation today of where you can find certain information that might be relevant to your purchases with Canoe. Another point that we get asked quite a lot, so as you can imagine with an open website, posting price lists is not really ideal, especially for our suppliers. So what we always encourage our members first and foremost to do is engage with the suppliers on our website when you're requesting pricing through their Canoe contract. This is going to open or unlock additional benefits, extra value adds, potentially deeper discounts as well, versus just looking at a price list where that list price and that ceiling price is listed. You know, what I always say is Charlottetown, Halifax, City of Toronto, they're all going to start at the same list price, same with any small rural community. But where the suppliers have the ability to adjust is bulk discounts on top of that list price discount, loyalty discounts. So there's a lot of other opportunities that you can open by engaging with those suppliers. Now, when you get quotes back from suppliers, you can always send those to Canoe. We have a contract team in place that will review that list price and discount structure to ensure that it aligns with the master agreement. So that's just some tips and tricks from a price list standpoint. This is what we communicate to our members across the country that we engage with. We're going to actually go through a few different document breakdowns with some screenshots. And again, hopefully you'll be able to translate this over to the website, and any additional questions we can take at the end as well. A couple things to note, there's a few different types of invoicing. So when you're engaging with our contracts, most of our contracts, 95% of them will be invoiced through supplier. You can see here the third line down is where it identifies how that supplier invoices. We also have invoicing direct or through association, meaning Canoe. So if you're engaging with a supplier, we do encourage you to understand how they invoice so that there's no surprises. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. One thing to note, we have two different types of contracts also. So Stephanie highlighted that we have our partnership with Sourcewell. There are Canoe Sourcewell contracts, which make up a vast majority of the contracts that we have in place. They will always start with 6 digits, so 6 numbers. Then we have Canoe Canada contracts where we do not leverage Sourcewell as a partner, and we do them on our own just across Canada. And they will typically start with 3 letters. So this is another way to quickly identify if it's a Sourcewell Canoe contract or a Canoe Canada contract. And you can see with these 2 examples here that Action was done through a Canoe Canada RFP, whereas Caterpillar was done through a Canoe Sourcewell RFP. Okay. Now, when it comes to the request for proposal, something really important to note is that we do solution-based RFPs. Solution-based RFPs allow suppliers to provide their entire catalog of offerings, and then that allows you as the member to get specifically what you need from them instead of being locked into 1 or 2 spec variations or a basket of goods. So typically GPO contracts will do solution-based RFPs because what our members need in BC is going to be a lot different than PEI and is going to be a lot different in the Yukon. So by doing a solution-based, it really gives our members the ability to, get that piece of equipment or that service that's specific to their province, specific to their community as a whole, or specific to their entity if it's not even a municipality and it's a school. So keep that in mind. The solicitation details are typically listed on page 1 through 5 of the RFP, so you can actually go in there and see a further breakdown of what that solicitation detail looks like. Another point is that within, especially the Sourcewell Canoe RFPs, Canoe and all of our current and future members are listed. So we do get that question from members saying, we've just signed up, are we listed in these RFPs? Or we're just starting to use these RFPs. Are we listed? You are listed. That's something that's always been in place since our partnership with Sourcewell, so that you can kind of check off as complete. Another thing is, as Stephanie highlighted, whether it's a Canoe Canada contract or a Canoe Sourcewell contract, all of the RFPs are posted nationally. We post on Canada Buys, we post ourselves on bids and tenders, and we also post on provincial platforms where we can. So from a competitive standpoint in the CFTA requirements, we do meet those requirements for posting and throughout the RFP process. Now, master agreements, if you have not dove into any of our master agreements, please do so when you have some time. There is a lot of very good information in there. One of the things we direct a lot of our members to is the depth and breadth of the offered equipment, products, or services. So a lot of times you'll see a further breakdown of equipment or services or line items that are listed within that depth and breadth that you can see as an offering through that contract. So it's a really good tool when you're trying to evaluate if this contract is going to meet what you need. If you don't have time to do that, everybody's busy. You reach out to Canoe. Stephanie and I get these emails all the time. We essentially cover Ontario to Newfoundland together. So we're here to help you guys. If you really can't find something within a contract or you just don't have time to look, please feel free to send that request to us. We do have a contract and supplier team in place as well, where they are the masters of our contracts, and they can provide that insight if Stephanie and I don't know off the top of our head. There's also the pricing and delivery. So typically what you'll see in here is what that discount range looks like through the contract. In this section, you'll also see what that administration fee is that the suppliers have to pay. So a lot of people will ask, as a nonprofit, how do we keep our lights on? How is it free for our members? All of our suppliers, when they respond to an RFP, there's a part in there where they have to submit what they believe is a fair administration fee to pay throughout their contract term. Some suppliers will put 1%, some will put 2%, some will put 500, some will put 0, and we say try again. That administration fee, a portion of it will go to Canoe to keep our lights on, for Stephanie and I to do what we do to support our members, but a portion will also go back to Municipal Association, and they use that for different work to support communities within the province. So that circular economy piece is super important, and that's kind of how that admin fee helps us do what we do. I've already talked a little bit about this, but again, ceiling pricing, starting discount structure, that's how our contracts are laid out. Our suppliers do have the ability annually to adjust their pricing with inflation, other things that might come up. It's not just here, we're going to increase it by 8%, now make the changes in your files. They actually have to submit documentation and proof as to why that goes up. Some suppliers will only submit an increase in price on a few things within their offering, because those are the only items that might be affected. But we do have a team in place that does that market evaluation to understand where those increases are coming. What is locked in is the discount. So throughout the term of the contract, the discount does stay the same, offered through the contract. Another key couple points. So we award all of our contracts to manufacturers or corporate entities. The reason we do that is that there's going to be a lot of different dealers coast to coast, and even within a province. So as I mentioned, Stephanie and I also cover Ontario. There could be a different dealer in Northern Ontario, Central Ontario, and Southern Ontario. So by the manufacturer, the corporate entity holding that contract, they then allow whoever the approved local dealers are to sell through that contract. Where that's a benefit to our members is when you go out to market yourself, the CFTA dictates that you cannot award more points to an entity because they're local. That's classified as discrimination. So through our contracts, you're actually able to guarantee more so that you're able to purchase from a local dealer because we've already done that competitive process. So keep that in mind as well. When you search on a website, that local dealer's name might not come up. So search for the manufacturer, the corporate name, and they will put you in contact with whoever that local dealer is closest to your entity. And lastly, our contracts do allow you to supplement additional terms and conditions with the master contract or master agreement. So if there are additional terms and conditions that you need to add in, let's say cybersecurity, that's a hot topic right now across the country. We do have cyber security insurance within our contracts, but if you find that you need more, or there's new terms and conditions that you want to put in there that maybe your legal has highlighted or the association in webinars has brought up, you can go to the supplier. We have a participating addendum template, and you can say, here's some additional terms and conditions to supplement the master agreement. Now, the supplier has to agree to it. Just if the supplier was to do an addendum as well, you would have to agree, but you do have the ability to do that if your entity requires it. And lastly, we always recommend that you download, save any of the documents when you are engaging with a Canoe supplier. So please, if you are going to make a purchase, download the documents from our website so that they're in your Canoe folder on your desktop. If you have to submit something to council through, and it's a purchase through Canoe, those documents also are important to show an RFP and competitive process has taken place. Lastly, evaluation summaries are on our website. So the Sourcewell ones will typically, Sourcewell Canoe will typically look like this. Canoe Canada will typically look like this. These are what I like to call your Willy Wonka chocolate factory gold ticket of showing a competitive process being done. So typically we will have dozens, if not, 50 plus manufacturers that will respond to our RFPs. I believe we just had our fire apparatus where we had close to 50 manufacturers responded, provided pricing, and I believe there was maybe 20 or so that were awarded. So again, showing that competitive process, posting it nationally, and having, dozens of suppliers that respond. Now, the next few slides, you may have gone through a request for a quote through Canoe process before, whether it was the June webinar last year, or maybe you've had some meetings already with a Canoe procurement rep. The purpose of this is essentially to do the same, walk you through with some best practices. What I want you to keep in mind is Canoe is here to work within your own policies and procedures. So if you have a process for using GPO contracts already, please follow that. Typically, what I'm going to highlight today is what we recommend are the steps to reaching out for pricing. Where we see members kind of differ is how they review those quotes to essentially decide if they're going to proceed. And we always leave that to our member to determine what those important levers are for that purchase. So we'll kind of walk through it here, and then obviously if there's questions near the end, we can answer those. So the first step essentially is to identify what you're looking for, whether it's a piece of equipment, whether it's some type of service. Does Canoe have this contract? It's something that we're looking to buy for our 2026 budget. One nice thing with our contracts is you don't have to have specs, but if you do have specs that you've used previously, or maybe your team has put them together in preparation to go to market, and then you've just found out Canoe has a contract, you can use those specs as well. So depending on which avenue you go down, no specs, you can actually use our suppliers to help build those specs. If you do have specs, you can send those to our suppliers to provide you with a total value proposition through their contract. What we typically see for the levers with our members, and again, this comes down to what's important for that purchase. Obviously, cost, that was typically a lot of what people evaluated on was lowest cost. What we're starting to see more now is standardization. All of our chassis are one brand. Our team knows how to fix them. They know how to operate them. We like this supplier. They can service us, the closest. So we're looking to standardize our chassis, which is why we're going to go to this one supplier that has a Canoe contract. Delivery, we just lost a piece of equipment. We need to get this as soon as possible. Let's get quotes from Canoe. This supplier might be $5,000 more, but we can get it in 3 months versus 10 months. So what is that lever that's the most important to you? We've also had members actually either send their team to that supplier to test the equipment, or that supplier's brought the equipment to site for their end users to test out, and they made the deciding factor that way. So it may not be the same for every purchase, but just know that you do have the flexibility to kind of be creative with how you want to evaluate any quotes that you get from Canoe suppliers. Now, typically on our website, there are a couple different avenues that you can go down to search and review the suppliers and the programs that we have. And I do in a few slides have a list of all of our programs and what programs majority of the municipalities and PEI are using. But for right now, there is a supplier directory. So under our procurement tab, supplier directory, you'll see all of the suppliers that have standing offer contracts in place. I think we're nearing close to 600 right now. Within our programs or browse programs page, this has all of our suppliers' programs listed in alphabetical order, and then the suppliers live within each of those programs. The programs page is very beneficial because if you're a firefighter, you just search fire and all the fire programs show up. Kind of the same thing with Public Works. You can type in Public Works, and typically a lot of the programs with purchases that they make will come up, and then the suppliers' contracts and documents will live within. When you're searching, within the search bar, you'll be able to type in mower, culverts. Again, you can type in that manufacturer name, you can type in that corporate name, and it'll bring up the programs and suppliers that have those contracts that you may be able to leverage for that purchase. When it comes up, you'll see there's a little, it's kind of blurry, I apologize, a little learn more button. You can click kind of that learn more button or the image, and that'll take you in the programs page to see all of the suppliers listed. Now, when you're trying to decide what suppliers to reach out to, again, it goes back kind of to those levers. Are you standardizing? Are you just getting 3 quotes because you don't have a specific brand in mind? Again, figure out what's going to work for that purchase through Canoe. You have the flexibility to do it one way or kind of mix it up depending on the purchase. So most of our programs will have multiple awards. There won't just be one. I say that, but our culvert and our office supply just have one. The vast majority will have 2 or more. For those that have multiple, one thing I would encourage you to do, if you don't know which brand you want to reach out to, talk with your end user. Ask them which brands, based on their experience, they recommend that you engage with. The reason I say that is if you want to go to 1, 2, and 3, that's a strategy as well. But there could be benefits to engaging with that end user, asking them if those 3 brands make sense. Also understanding what's in your fleet. If 1, 2, and 3 aren't in your fleet, but 7, 5, and 6 are, it might make sense to reach out to those suppliers as well. And I kind of talked about getting creative on your evaluation, but just highlight it again there when you're deciding. Now, when it comes to obtaining a quote, every single one of our suppliers will have a contact listed underneath. Typically, there'll be a phone number and an email. That is who you are engaging with. We want you to start with a contact on the website because they are the expert in this contract. When you reach out to the contact on the website, you essentially say, here's my Canoe member number. This is the contract, and I believe there might be an email template in here. Here we go. This is my member number. This is the contract number. I have specs attached. We'd like pricing through your Canoe contract. What that contact on the website is going to do is they're actually going to direct you to whoever that local dealer is closest to your community. Sometimes they'll send you their dealer locator app and tell you to pick. It's just a good practice to start with a contact on the website because unfortunately, and this happens across the country, not all sales reps and not all dealers fully understand how to price through their contract. So by starting with the contact on the website, they can make sure that that dealer is fully brought up to speed on how to price through the contract, and more importantly, how to report back to the manufacturer so that that dealer is made whole on the discounts that they're offering you. So even if you know who that dealer is, we do encourage you to start with a contact on the website so that the dealer is fully aware of how that contract pricing and reporting works within the internal system. Typically, every quote is going to be laid out a little bit different with each supplier. What you want to make sure is always included on every quote and invoice, and if you do purchase orders, is your Canoe member number and the supplier's contract number. If these 2 numbers are not listed, it is not a compliant quote, okay? It does not affect the supplier at all. It affects you as a public entity. If you have any reporting or auditing that happens, you want to make sure that the contract number, which references the RFP and the master contract terms and conditions, is present, but also your member number to prove that you're a member of Canoe, the entity that partook in that procurement process on your behalf. So please make sure on any documentation that those 2 numbers are listed. If you want to send them to Stephanie and I to review, we get dozens of them a week. We are happy to review to make sure that it aligns and that nothing is missing. This email template's in here. I encourage you to use it. If you want to adjust it with any internal language that you might have, feel free to do so. The 2 most important things is the highlighting of your member number and the supplier's contract number, which are the contract numbers on the website. If you don't know what your member number is, please reach out to Stephanie and I. We're happy to provide that to you. Now we get to purchase and pay. So this is kind of the first point I have here is obtain internal approval process with the purchase. So when you get that quote or quotes back, we don't really get involved. We step away and let you guys do your internal process for evaluating, again, whether it's those levers that we talked about. So make sure that whatever your internal process is for using GPO contracts, you follow that to make sure that you're checking all the boxes internally. If you do use purchase order, I talked about this, contract number, member number must be listed. For the invoicing through association contracts, they will be a little different. So let's say you're going to purchase from Action. Action's going to build that quote through the contract. You're going to approve to proceed with the purchase. Action's going to send that quote to Canoe. Canoe is going to pay that quote on behalf of the member, and then we're going to invoice you back on Canoe letterhead for the exact same amount. So the reason that a handful, probably about 2%, 3% of our contracts are through association is at the time of award, we were able to get better pricing from those suppliers by taking away some of their admin time. So keep that in mind. It will not come to you on, Action, Staple, or any of our tire providers. It won't come on their letterhead. It'll come on Canoe letterhead. And again, it really makes up only about 3% of our contracts. And then essentially you issue that payment, however it goes, and you wait to receive your order, whatever it might look like. Now, this is just a quick, oh gosh, let's see what happened here. There we go. So this is just a quick snapshot of the Atlantic provinces. So we haven't shown the rest of the country, but these are just some numbers right now of purchases by province. So by Canoe members in each province. So there's, we came out here back in 2019. We're constantly growing, constantly educating. But you can see with New Brunswick, close to 8, Nova Scotia, 21, PEI 1.2, and Newfoundland is getting close to 24 million. So there is a lot of growth happening out here in terms of contract engagement. If you are looking to speak with peers, whether it's within the province of PEI or maybe some peers in other provinces in Atlantic Canada, understand how it's going, we're more than happy to make those connections. We've seen a lot of great results with peer-to-peer interaction and understanding how other entities have made using Canoe contracts work for them within their communities. Now, the next few slides is a lovely snapshot of all of our programs. Don't get too dizzy. I know I was trying to make it big enough, but not too big that it wasn't 10 pages. Anything that is bolded is what members in PEI have currently engaged with in terms of programs. If you do want to know a spend report for your entity, if you know you've used Canoe contracts, happy to do that. Let Stephanie and I know. We'll do a personalized spend report for your community. Just to show you kind of that overall usage to date as it relates to contracts and overall program engagement. And then again, these programs are all listed under the procurement tab under browse programs. So this is also a very good tool where you can take each of these programs. Let's say there's budget line for this year for road maintenance equipment. You can type in road maintenance equipment on our website and review all of the suppliers that have contracts listed. Now, before we wrap up, what we kind of recommend as next steps or where to start. Understanding where you currently sit as a member. So are you signed up? Do you know what your member number is? Do you have your notice of participation posted? Those are check marks for members to, find out if all of that's done. If you really have no idea what a notice is, what your member is, please reach out to Stephanie and I. You'll have our contact details within this document. Explore the Canoe website. If it's just you as a procurement manager or just you as a CEO that oversees the usage of Canoe contracts internally, totally fine. But I do encourage you to bring your department heads or managers into that review to see if there's anything maybe that you're missing out on in terms of programs and contracts. We do have a lot of members that will actually use our contracts for budget prep. So preparing for your 2027 budget, engaging with Canoe suppliers to get budget pricing, to prepare for that for next year's budget is a really good tool. And then obviously, if there's any purchases coming up for 2026, before you decide if you're going to go to market, seeing what that Canoe pricing looks like through those standing offer contracts. And we're always here for any type of assistance. If you cannot find a contract on the website, you want a retraining session for your whole team, whatever it looks like, please use us. Canoe itself with our programs and contracts is a tool, as Stephanie said, and we are as well. So we're here with our teams to help you guys hopefully make things a little bit more efficient. And again, it's not going to be for every purchase that you have coming up, but if there's certain ones that you can streamline, it makes sense to at least take a look. And that wraps up our presentation. I guess I'll pass it over to Cassandra and see if there's any questions.